Welcome to the official Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society's podcast. I'm your host, Barnaby, and you're listening to Whispers from the Dark. Welcome to this week's episode of Whispers from the Dark. We are starting off our promotion of the June 4th Menomonee Marinette Bigfoot Convention up in Menomonee, Wisconsin. And to start that off, our first guest will be at that convention. He will have a booth promoting his current work and his future work. He has a show on Amazon Prime, and I suggest you guys go check that out. Our guest, Jay Bachochin. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Barnaby. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell everybody, so you have a kind of a movie documentary out, and it's on Amazon Prime, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, my major background would be Fox Mulder, growing up that way before Fox Mulder was Fox Mulder. But I actually did start out in the paranormal field of, chasing ghosts, the investigation. And I think a lot of that was kind of a tip off of Ghost Hunters, the original show that was on Sci-Fi. Just cutting right to it, though, I've kind of evolved more into cryptids and started my search for Bigfoot. And I can get into that a little bit later. But my first 5 years, I needed to put these stories out because it was so compelling, at least to me, that I wanted to put this out. Basically, when it's on Amazon Prime, it's going in Australia, UK, all those others. Really, I was really hoping for Wisconsin, so that I could help me hunt the truth for myself of other possible sightings. So I put a documentary out called Finding Jay on Amazon Prime. It came out in July 2019, and I thought that was going to be it because honestly, it's painstaking. For authors writing books, I can imagine what that is. For filming, editing, writing, and just putting that out there takes a lot. Especially, I'm a family man with my wife and 2 kids, dog and a bird, working full time, and going out hunting the truth. But I am currently working on a follow-up to that called Finding Jay 2 Beyond the Kettle, which will be released in August of this year.
Cool. Well, you summed up some of my questions. I was going to ask you when your thing was coming up, but we were going to save that till the end, and you spoiled it now.
We'll remind people at the end.
Okay, cool. So, I guess why don't we start, we'll back up before Finding Jay, and you were doing paranormal research. Like I watched Finding Jay, like I said. So the beginning of that, you start out talking about like how Finding Jay came about and stuff, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But you were actually doing paranormal research when you started this stuff, right?
Yeah, I was. Like I mentioned, I grew up. I almost want to say like Fox Mulder. I always wanted to know. I was fascinated with not just the paranormal, but the supernatural. Growing up, I'm going to date myself here, but, I was watching the King Kong Godzilla movies and the Frankenstein Wolfman creature features. And that's always fascinated me. I was always that weird kid, that would be, down in his basement watching a black and white, little color TV, while everybody's out bike riding as kids or playing softball or whatever. But I always found it intriguing. And I don't know if I'm just wired that way or if it's part of my DNA, but I've always looked at the possibility of these things existing, even though that they were made for entertainment. We're talking monsters and everything like that. So, basically I was kind of an all-around, I was kind of well-rounded in the fact that I wanted to know all of it, not just a portion of it. You get a lot of people that are ghost hunters that are just looking for ghosts, or ufologists that are just looking for UFOs and ETs, or just Bigfoot, or just Dogman, or it's everything for me right now. But I got the opportunity in later 2000, or I'm sorry, in early 2007, I formed a team of just me and my wife. She co-founded with me because she had an interest in the ghost phenomenon. We were watching it on TV, but I was always like, but that's on TV. That's for entertainment value. And I wanted to find out for myself once again. So we formed a small team. It was me and my wife, brought on a couple other people walking on the graveyards with our EMF detectors and trying to get those spikes and trying to find the evidence. And that kind of turned into, we kind of got our website together. All of a sudden the team became 10 and we started buying surveillance cameras. And, next thing you know, we're researching people's houses by request or going to Ohio State Reformatory. And the amount of paranormal that I've caught, that we've caught, it wasn't even so much at that point, okay, we caught an EVP. Now, hey, look at us. We caught an EVP. We're ghost hunters. I wanted to dive deeper into what a ghost was. I mean, I was taught a ghost is somebody who passed on, but honestly, do we really know? And that's kind of what I was searching for, because I'm thinking, is a ghost somebody that, passed on, their spirits come back, or is there, two different, multi-universes, one crossing over to our plane here that they're not really in spirit form, but they're physical. There was so much there, but I don't want to say I got ousted for thinking that way, but I kind of did, at least with my team, because they believed that what they were searching for was exactly that. And I always said, if you know the answer to what a ghost is, it's no longer paranormal. It's normal because you know what it is, but yet they still call it paranormal. But then in early 2013, the team started kind of dismantling a little bit, and we wanted to do more than just ghosts. And you know what? I'm 13 minutes away from Bray Road. You know what? I've heard of the Beast of Bray Road all the time. I grew up watching creature features. I wonder if there's a werewolf on Bray Road. Let's go check it out. And we did that for a lot. We just kind of patrol. We'd never get out on Bray Road because it's all privately owned farmland, and you park on there and one farmer knows the other farmer, they'll get the cops on you, but you can drive it. It's a public road. After doing that, for quite a while, we ended up in the Kettle Moraine, still looking for the Beast of Bray Road, but I had no idea. And honestly, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, not even on my radar. Here's somebody who believes in UFOs and ghosts and all these possible Loch Ness Monster. Bigfoot has been a running joke. You see the word Bigfoot, you hear people cringe. My wife thinks that I'm out looking for unicorns, and and I get that now. I mean, even when I was doing it then, I wouldn't really use Sasquatch or Bigfoot, or not even Dogman. I was using something else, like the forest animals. I don't know, the big forest animals. But Bigfoot wasn't even on my radar. So in 2013, looking for the Beast of Bray Road, and this will be in my first film, Finding Jay, but I heard something out there that compels me to this day. Now, I was out there with a real crappy Sony digital tape player that can shoot IR, so the microphone's not that good, but the four of us out there heard what almost sounded like a cross between a primate, I almost want to say a monkey howl, but yet you could almost hear the human in it. And it did it 4 times, and out of those 4 times, I was able to capture one best piece that I can that still resonates in my head. And at that point, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm no Outback Jack. I'm not an expert tracker like our Native American friends. But this compelled me to start going out there, because that's just how I am. I need to know for myself, and after going out there several times, and this is in my documentary, so I don't want to spoil anything on you, but it the tracks that we came across on the snow, no matter who I'd show those to. In fact, I even showed those to Cliff of Finding Bigfoot, and what's funny is somebody actually shared that picture with him, which was my picture, and he goes, "Is this the same picture as this other person sent me?" I'm like, I don't know. So I started watermarking my stuff just to say, hey, you know what? I caught these. And even Cliff, who's very much a believer in big Sasquatch, um, could also say, it could be pareidolia, it could be this, it could be that. And I get that. That's what I'm about. I'm about hunting the truth. And he looked and said, absolutely. And that was enough for me to kind of say, I'm onto something. So again, I kind of led you into how I got into the world of Bigfoot. But what I just said was actually in the beginning of my documentary.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, I question for you. When you're working
Sure.
on Bray Road and stuff, have you ever gone over to the Burlington Woods?
Yes, I have been over to the Burlington Woods. We actually did that though in while we were still investigating the ghost phenomenon.
Okay.
And there was a good 4 or 5 of us that went out there, and we were let out on that tour.
Mm-hmm. With Mary
You've
Sutherland?
been out there too, I take it?
I have, yeah. If you're not familiar,
Yeah.
our first episode is with Mary Sutherland in the woods and stuff.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
With Mary, and she took us out. We left the little gifts at the beginning of the trail. Took us to the what was that called? That center where
Shamanic.
everything was just like
The shamanic burial site, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was all before I even got interested in Bigfoot or Dogman in this area. So here I'm thinking, are they spiritual more so than maybe a possible ET or natural occurrences out there? So yeah, but it was pretty cool. I think we went out in 2008. That was the last time I was out there.
Yeah, 2019 was when we started working in Burlington, and we actually got the Howls out at Burlington.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, but you're sitting in that parking lot where you go in, and you're looking up at that power line cut on the ridge,
Yep.
and something walked out from the right side and stood like watching us in the parking lot.
That is awesome.
That was pretty cool. But
and the thing is, that's what I'm saying is the woods are all connected, because I've even had reports way south in Wisconsin into Illinois. Now, a lot of these sightings weren't until the mid 80s, but so less population, but still population. And if you start following these rivers, it's it's a perfect way for I would say Sasquatch to realistically travel without ever leaving a print. Who's going to look you can't even look in the rivers. Even if they left a print, the water is going to scoop those away. But so from Burlington to the Kettle, all the way up by you, all the way up to Michigan.
mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's kind of a Bigfoot highway.
How far away is Elkhorn from the Kettle? Like Burlington to Bray Road is about like 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So how far is it
minutes.
the rest of the way?
Then the Kettles, it's more, without giving anything away, it's more a little bit north of Eagle,
Right, but like how far? Like another 20 minutes?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. So I'm looking at it. It's usually about like 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes 15, sometimes 15 if I'm late going to pick someone up.
So that's only like, I mean, when we're driving as people, we're driving down roads, stop, go lights, all that stuff. I mean, if you're talking about a large creature or something moving through the forest, they can move a lot quicker and more in straight lines and stuff. So that's maybe like 20, 30 minutes away for something to move from Burlington down to the Kettle or whatever.
You know what? I wouldn't even know if that was it, because We see the Patterson Gimlin film, and we see Patty lumbering, and we're like, all right, well, they walk a little bit quicker than man. Uh, but I saw something that almost moved like a blur. Um, and I almost want to say it was physical or was physical. That's what caught my eye. And as soon as I turned to it, the thing moved faster. I like to say that, you're about to swat a fly
Hmm.
and you swat down, but the fly zooms away. It was that fast. Because when I saw this, it was in February. So we had all dead, or not dead, I'm sorry, all brown, no greenery anywhere. So all of a sudden this auburn shape caught my eye to my right. And as soon as I look over, kind of like a T-Rex with movement, I turn over and this thing was, and again, I couldn't tell you if it was on four legs, two legs. All I know is I caught it, saw it for that 1 nanosecond, and then it bolted to the left faster than anything I could do. Scary thing was that this was during the day, and I took my daughter out. She was only 4 years old, 4.5 years old. And I was just taking her for a nature hike. I don't want my kids growing up being scared of nature. I want them to be able to go out and enjoy it and not fear it, but understand the safety of the animals, um, poison ivy, ticks, just all these little things. And so when I took her out, hey, little legs, little hike. We were only out there for like 45 minutes, but nobody else was. And she was kind of skating on the path up compacted ice. And she's just like, Daddy, Daddy, pull me around. And I'm kind of pulling her around and I'm still observing, but she's right around me. And when I saw this thing move, it it did something to me internally, because now it was a threat. I mean, I don't care if I had, you know, two AKs on me or Rambo standing behind me. If this thing moved that fast, what are the chances, which I had no idea, what would the chances be for that to snatch my daughter? And that's a nightmare,
Hmm.
a literal nightmare for me. So we were only about 150 yards away from the car. So we left right after that, because a lot of people right away, would you go look for prints? Okay, that's great. Even if I took a picture of a print, would you believe it? No, it doesn't. You can't really tell if that's a footprint or not. There's not enough toe definition. Or so the point being is, I turned into father hen, and I was going to get us out of there, which I did. And actually, I did not go back out in the woods for like a month, because I was like, I don't know what I'm dealing with. At first, I was thinking we're dealing with a flesh and blood primate man, or you know, a lot of things that people believe, but because I think out of the box, we don't really know what these things are. They're there. I can 100% with confidence say they are there, but I don't know what they are. And that's kind of the mindset I have going in, whenever I do it. I don't even want to call it research. I did have a lot of equipment on me for many years, but I've actually stripped all that stuff off, and I'm only carrying an audio recorder. That's it. Because at this point, it's no longer trying to prove it. I'm not trying to make that documentary to get that Nobel Prize, to the fame and the fortune. No, this is all for me, and that's what I'm doing. I'm actually trying to, more or less, without sounding crazier than believing in Bigfoot, is actually to make contact. So that's my ultimate goal.
Now, you say in your documentary that this isn't, you didn't call it Finding Bigfoot because you're not really looking for Bigfoot. It's called Finding Jay because it documents your journey of from paranormal to Bigfoot and stuff. So it's more about finding yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. It really was a play words on finding Bigfoot, and I've always said I honestly don't think we as people, Barnaby, me, you know, are ever going to find Bigfoot, but I believe Bigfoot will find us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really kind of the play, the two-way play on the words, because one is my journey that I started here and I ended here. In fact, I've evolved from there to where I am today, you know, you don't get any answers. All you get are more questions. And that's how come I'm coming out with Finding J2 Beyond the Kettle, is it's going to deal with, you know, two parts of what the woods has to offer. Um, you know, and that would be Bigfoot and the lights that we see out there. But, you know, Finding Jay is always going to be about, you know, a personal quest for me, and it will always be that. You know, people are already saying, well, after you do a part two, you can do a part three, and all of a sudden I'm becoming this person who's going to be putting out documentaries about themselves, and it's more just trying to tell this story and bringing awareness that there is something out there. You know, if you want to call it Bigfoot, if you want to call it Shadow Man, you want to call it ET. Um, and again, I have no answers for that. I have my personal opinions, obviously. But I guess not until you actually make that conscious connection will we ever know. And even if we make that conscious connection and I tell you what the Bigfoot told me and I'm going to tell you, you know, how far does that go? They're like, lock
Mhm.
this guy up. So it's personal. But I still want to bring awareness to what's going on, you know, out in those woods. And it's not just the Kettle. I believe it's in every woods that I've come across, from California to Colorado to Texas to here. People are reporting them.
Mhm.
So
So back to your sighting where it dashed off like that. You know, you're talking about this thing being super fast and moving in that. Do you
yeah,
think that you know, when we're talking about what this thing is, do you think that it's more flesh and blood or paranormal and stuff? Because when you know, I recently gave a presentation on cryptids, right? And in that presentation, I talked about like creatures that used to be thought to be cryptids that have been found out. And my favorite one of those there is the platypus. You know,
hmm,
there's so much weird stuff about that little creature, you know, just from the way it looks to the fact that now we found out that it glows in the dark, it lays eggs, it, you know, it's a mammal, it has a pouch, and they're poisonous. You know,
yeah,
so when you're looking at these creatures and you're trying to say, well, Bigfoot can't do this because, you know, it's not, you know, physically possible or anything. Do you even know? Like when you have these animals, you know, all the underwater stuff and everything that isn't possible. And we're talking about this thing moving so fast that how do you
yeah.
know that this isn't possible? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, and the thing is, a lot of people will say that. They'll say, well, if you think it's more ghost like or spirit like or translucent, how is it leaving physical prints? Well, you could also say that about the phenomenon, about things being knocked over or the smell. I mean, it's a physical thing. So, you know, again, we don't know, you know, I never want to step on anyone's toes about saying we really don't know what a ghost is, because we don't. We just have our preconceived you know, preconceived ideas of what we've learned, and it's the same thing about Bigfoot. You know, you could be in the world of cryptids, Bigfoot, even Dogman, and as soon as you start going with it's interdimensional, you know, or it's, you know, it could be translucent, or maybe it can levitate. Now you're not talking about a flesh and blood uh, creature, you know, whether it's primate or creature animal, just like the silverback gorilla. You know, they weren't discovered until the early 1900s, but they were always a myth,
Mm-hmm.
and yet now they're like you see them in a zoo. Okay, so now I look at this next level of what Bigfoot could be, and I believe they are flesh and blood, but I also believe they have honed in on nature, of what nature can give. Something different us humans can't do, because we need the technology, we need the phones, the cars, the computer, the video chats, you know. Everything we have is all based on technology, which is doing it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, think of a flesh and blood. I don't like calling them creatures. This is just my personal thing. I call them people. I'm one of those people, the forest people.
Hmm.
um, but I believe these first people have adapted so well. I don't want to just say to the woods, but I think to nature, that they're able to use that brain capacity that we can't, that we're stuck down here, and they can use their full potential, which could be what, um, either putting telepathy thoughts, or focusing, which they call zapping, the infrasound of, okay, I see two people walking up, I'm going to put this over them, and I can stand right here, and you're not going to see me because they're saying you can't see me. Sounds crazy, but we really don't know that. Or, you know, I don't know. Have you ever seen that movie Lucy?
I
With Scarlett
I think so. Yeah.
Johansson.
I
Well,
don't
anyway,
remember it, but yeah.
I won't get off sidetrack there, but it's basically she had this one drug that was able to open her mind to
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
the more, yeah, right. And the more she did, the more abilities she had. And that was just from the brain,
Hmm.
from the internal. So, long winded answer, my opinion only, is that they have adapted so well to uh, to nature, and to be able to use everything from it. Um, that could also be uh, giving them a longer lifespan. You know, And again, I'm going to refer to Bigfoot as this, but we compare man to Bigfoot or to gorilla, and we all have this life expectancy of being so old. Well, you know what? After watching Empire Strikes Back and seeing Yoda being 800, 900 years old, I'm thinking at one point, there's lobsters that one was caught off, I think it was New Zealand several years ago, that was crushed, brought up, and the cage crushed it, the trap did. But after inspecting it, because it looked so different, they found out it was a 400-year-old lobster that was still living. So if that thing didn't crush it, how long could it have lasted? All right. Now, I don't understand it's not a primate, because even macaws and tortoises can live that long. But what if these people, these first people, tapped into all that, and this is how they're able to live? And maybe that's why there's an overpopulation, like people are, is because their longer lifespan. And to keep their population at a certain level, they're kind of just spread out across the world. But it's not like, you know, the ones that I'm researching in the Kettle are are having babies. All of a sudden, there's going to be multiple of them, after years.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's like that. It's, again, my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth, but that's kind of what I I base my going out researching.
That's interesting. Very interesting. I recently did an interview with Sky Chen, who's a like Reiki healer and energy worker and stuff like that, and he had a very interesting thought on Bigfoot as well. And it was that people are seeing these creatures that do like possibly disappear or vanish into thin air and stuff. And he said, well, just like a person, if these things are intelligent and smart, there's possibilities that we're talking about. Some of them are very aggressive because of their personality. Some of them are very smart and intelligent because of their personality, just like people. And when you have these differences like that, you have like humans that are Christian or whatever, and then you have the Buddhists that meditate and they can go to these higher levels. And it's possible
Right.
that you have these Bigfoot that are at the same way. You have the very aggressive, hillbilly Bigfoots that just don't care and they're out for their own selves, and then you have these higher elevation thinking Bigfoots that can meditate and are one with the woods and stuff. And I thought that was very interesting that, why not? We're talking about everything else that could be or couldn't be. And so,
Correct. I mean, and again, just go with the octopus that could just actually go up to a rock and just become the rock as camouflage. That's a fact. That's
mm-hmm,
real. That's science. And, so it's kind of, because a lot of people are like, can they cloak? And I'm thinking predator, cloak,
mm-hmm,
and I'm thinking, but I don't think they use technology, to do that. But you're 100% right. You look at the Buddhist monks that really just focus on that. They can, um, change their body temperature up to it was like 10 or 20 degrees. And I've always thought about that while I'm out in the woods at -6. I'm all thermed up. And I'm thinking, okay, now these people don't have fur on them like an animal. It's hair. At least a lot of reports have described that. I thought I found a few hairs. You'll see some blunders in my next, not blunders, but where I thought it was hair, and I'd put it under the, digital microscope, and we'll save that one for when you guys watch that one.
Ooh, spoilers.
But yeah, I know, spoilers. But the thing is, you've got to try on that. But I always thought, if they just have hair, they're not fur, how are they able to be out in the -6? Now, you would say, well, Jay, how do you know that they are out there in -6? Well, if I come across what to me looks like your classic print where people aren't walking and there's only one or two of them, I'm going to go on the limb and say they're here. I won't try to convince you, but I'll tell myself they are here. If they are there, it's freezing cold. How are they managing it? Or just like, I'm just like you going out in the summer with the mosquitoes where it's sweaty, it's hot, and, getting spacked, and you're like, get me out of here. How are they surviving that? Kind of like, where are they sleeping at night that are not getting eaten alive by mosquitoes? Maybe they can do what the Buddhist monks do. They've already tapped into that part of nature to where they do their meditation, where they can control their body temperature to be out there in freezing cold or super hot. That's what I try to do, is I try to pluck all this information everywhere, and then in my crazy J brain, I think about these things, and they at least entertain myself. They may not entertain anybody else, because everybody has their own pre-notions of what they are. That's fine. I do, you do, I respect that. We'll still be friends if we don't agree. It's okay. So yeah, I definitely think there is something to what they're able to do to survive in nature. Don't you think sometimes it's like, if they wake up in the woods, it's like us waking up in our bed. They're gonna hunt. They have their societies. Maybe there's only like a clan, a family of them that are in the Kettle Moraine. There could be a total of, again, I'm just throwing it out there, but there could be like 10 of them. That's it. Nothing all the way up until Michigan or wherever. And they use all this territory to travel. Some of the areas I go to, I call the gas station. They're there getting gas one night, and some nights they've already gotten their gas days ago, so I'll never see them. Or there's a Walmart, there's maybe where they eat, the restaurant, and so when I go out there, it's basically trying to observe, document, and that's it. So not every one of my encounters out there, my hikes as I call them, are that.
And I have to imagine, I mean, like, I haven't gone out with you and stuff, but I'd imagine that when you go to the Kettle, you're probably going in the same area so that you're familiar with it for the most part. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people, because I will go live because people are interested in this. It's not a way to social media climb or anything like that. Because honestly, if you took all that away, my documentary, Facebook, the internet, I would still be out there just myself, even if I didn't have a digital audio recorder. But you're 100% right, because people will say, well, where do you go? And of course, when I said I really don't want to mention, that makes me sound selfish, but it doesn't, because I've kind of become one with the beckoning of these areas of the woods that I go to. I'll sporadically go to several of them, mix it up, not go to the same place every time, and kind of mix it up. And people are still like, well, where was this? And it's kind of like, you know what? It's not Jay's woods. I say it's God's woods. Anybody's entitled to go in there. But at the same time, as soon as you reveal certain areas, well, then you might have some interested people going out, which is fine. I always say if there was seven of me, I'd be out there 24/7. And if I'm not out there, it'd be good for somebody else to be out there to experience and document themselves. However, if I'm going to go out there and I don't know the other person's out there, we're just going to
Mhm.
create false positives and false documentation. And that's something I don't want to do because, I have this relationship with the woods there.
Well, my point was though too is if you're always going to like the same area or similar areas and stuff like in the one area, you're talking about these things going to Walmart or their restaurant, etc. If you're not in the area where they are, the Kettle is a huge place.
Oh,
My team didn't went down there one day and we spent I want to say like 5 or 6 hours hiking, and we didn't even scratch it. We didn't even get to the area that we were aiming for. And for you to say, well, they're not at the gas station today. I mean, yeah, they could be completely on the other side of the Kettle, because we don't know how big of an area. We started this talk about going from Burlington to Bray Road to the Kettle, and if they're traveling back and forth between here, well, if you're in the Kettle and they're up in Burlington, that's the same family, and they're just not in there. Well, there's no
yeah.
Bigfoot in here. Well, not at this moment, no, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's a great point of when we were originally talking, um, how far Burlington from the Kettle to,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, all the way up to Michigan. But if you're going to take it to where humans think about how long it takes, I can't imagine these things taking any time at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because now it gets crazier because we've been seeing the lights out there for years. In my first documentary, I didn't mention them at all because I felt that maybe that wasn't really part of what Bigfoot could be. My second documentary is going to be focusing a lot on the lights because, well, I happened to capture them on my body cam at the time. Still don't know what they are. Chasing lights is like chasing a ghost. And if I'm out there looking for Bigfoot or a dog man and I see these lights, is there a correlation between the two? Because I'm out in the woods? Or is it, a dark, stormy night, you look out your living room window and it's at night and it's thundering, lightning. Um, and just as you look out there, you see a dog crossing your yard and a flash of lightning happens. Do you now say the dog has something to do with the lightning,
Mm-hmm.
or are they two separate things? And that's kind of where I'm at out there.
When
I can go ahead.
when you say the lights, I just want to be clear for people because
Sure.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
when you're talking about the lights, you're seeing them like in the woods, not like lights in the sky and stuff
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, I've actually seen both in the sky, and it's bizarre. We see orbs of light that uh, I've seen them as low as the path where I thought it was a flashlight, and it was nothing. But it was weird because it was a strange orange glow. Not even if you use an old flashlight battery, you remember those before the
Yeah.
LEDs?
Yeah.
It was oranger than that yellow, and it was big, and it was coming down the path, and it was going right around, gone, nothing, and it was silent. Um,
And you're
but
seeing these with your
we
eyes, not with a camera, correct?
right.
Yeah.
These are all with eyes. I think I was lucky enough to catch two, but you got to be in the right place at the right time with it. I'm on a body cam, and check this out. If my body cam's right here, and I just turn my head to see something,
Mm-hmm.
oops, sorry, that's catching nothing. So I'd actually have to hop, and that's not how I want to be. But we've seen several. In fact, Tobias and Emily Whalen were out with me on one where, again, it wasn't captured, but is this weird, freaky light that was just above us in the trees that waved over the path, gone. Wasn't in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
It was just below where the trees are. And I've seen that out there, and I referred to it as upside down lightning. And people are like, what? And I'm like, I swear it looks almost like lightning, as if it was being sparked from the ground up and hitting under the tree canopies and then gone. And just just being out there, there's really no way of tracking exactly where the source came from. You just see it. So a lot of this will be by, especially my second documentary, of the people that I was out with. Maybe you won't be able to see everything, but you're going to get everybody's different opinion on what they saw. And, you know, I don't know, because sorry if I'm going to ramble back to 2014, but when I came across these 12 prints, that's in my first film, um, they just stopped on a dead fallen tree fall with a little bit of snow on it. So the 2 foot drifts of snow, fallen oak, snow on the top that looked like it was disturbed, then nothing around it, to where I would say, well, if it wanted to, whatever this was, would have had to jump to a tree. And that was a good 20 feet away, was the closest tree. And then, it was, um, so I'm like, okay, what either jumped or it vanished. And my third one was always scary. It sprouted wings and flew away, which is even creepier.
Mothman.
What do they call a bat squatch?
Mhm.
But so I people say, well, what if it walked through a portal? And I'm like, I've never seen a portal before. And I can't say yay or nay, but it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, okay, well, there's a portal there. That's where he walked through. I don't know. I actually didn't even see what left the prints. Um, but at this point, I'm thinking they can just stop leaving tracks. I was lucky to find a trackway of 12, but I've also found a trackway of 1 a couple times.
Mhm.
Where is that other foot? How come we're finding it here? There's nothing that leads up to it. You can't find anything that it walked past. Where is it? So then I started thinking about these orbs of light. And then, of course, reading Ron Moorhead's Quantum Bigfoot book, which is my favorite Bigfoot book, um, is I really do think they do have an ability that maybe they can transfer into some sort of energy and move away. And maybe that's how they're so elusive. And maybe they don't cloak the way we think they cloak. Maybe they just become this, I know it sounds crazy, but energy ball that maybe during the day you can't see because of the different spectrums of light. And that's how
Mhm.
they're moving around. I don't know. But, those are the questions I'm digging for. I'm going to keep going out there until I make contact. So,
So have you've been out to Lee Hampel's farm, and I believe it might have actually been you that was with Lee. He shared a video with us that we had permission to use on our episode of the galloping lights.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know what I'm
man.
talking about. So that's kind of like what we're talking about here, right? For anybody that's seen our episode and stuff, the galloping lights in the field that went through.
Yeah. And it's so bizarre because Lee just bought the new infrared scope. It was like a monocular.
Hmm.
And when I was looking out there, I didn't know what I was even looking at, because he is his property and everything butts up to Bray Road. But I'm thinking, all right, well, if there's Bray Road, I wonder if those were cars. And I was thinking that in my head, because this is still going out there and doing this at night. And I kind of said that to Lee, and he laughed and he goes, "You can't see cars through here." He knows exactly where they would go and the distance. And then he goes, "Jay, let me show you one thing." And all of a sudden I'm looking at it, because it's small. And once we blew it up, he goes, "These lights are in front of the tree line. They're not behind." So even if it was a far distant car, you would never be able to see what I captured on Lee's. And again, I'm just appreciative that Lee, lets me go on his property and poke around there, because there is some beyond weirdness there. Yeah, you know that for a
Oh yeah,
fact.
yeah.
So
Our episode is called the Wisconsin Skinwalker Ranch for good reason.
yeah, it is right. Don't you get that crazy weird
Hmm.
vibe out there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
there.
pretty much got chased off that property by something that night.
Did you?
Yeah.
I got to see it. You got to send me the link. I don't know why I'm
Oh yeah,
missing
yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I love this stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, it was a
But
weird
yeah,
night.
so yeah, it's I this production company that came out that's releasing a documentary about Lee's. farm. I think it's coming out soon, but they sent me a rough cut of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually came out. They do investigating, and they wanted me there to kind of explain the lay of the land of Lee, of course, with Lee. Um, but as soon as it became nightfall, we broke off into, you get past the goalpost, as Lee calls them,
Mm-hmm.
the two trees, and they recorded me, and they wanted to know what I was doing at this point. Do you know I don't recall anything from after that until we got to the north end of the field? And it's almost like if you were driving. Do you ever just drive home and all of a sudden you're home and you're like, how
Mm-hmm.
the hell did I get home? Um, it was kind of like that because they were all mentioning what I said. And what did you mean by that, Jay? And I'm like, I said that? They even have, you'll see, but I was using a laser from the south side to the north side. I don't remember at all. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that different part of it. There's the part of me that wants to hunt the truth, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
You can investigate ghosts, but there's always that possibility of possession, of bringing something home, or you know, um, I'm a Bible believing Christian, um, not perfect at all, but it's what I believe that praying about it a lot, at least for me, was God give me a conviction if I am getting too close to this ghost stuff, and I didn't for many years. Then there was one point, all of a sudden it was a snap, and that's when I kind of shifted to the cryptids. That it was just kind of time to move, but I call it that conviction feeling, and so I want to be safe while I do it.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I don't ask spirits questions anymore like we used to do for EVPs. People say, "Well, do you do that in the woods?" I go, "Yeah, I guess it's a little bit different." I put my hands up and I talk to the raccoons and the possums, and I'm like, "Hey guys, it's Jay. Hey, this is so and so. I'm with Tobias and Emily. Stay hi, guys." And it is fun, and you'll hear a raccoon laugh in the distance and a possum hiss because it was a bad joke. Um, but it's basically to where and how I feel. I can't say how you feel, how anybody feels about what they do. You have to go with your gut. Uh, and this is kind of long-winded about talking about Lee's, but at Lee's, I get a really kind of a weird vibe, and it's a different vibe than when I'm in the Kettle, to where I don't feel like threatened. I feel like something's watching me, but maybe that's the where we have to start to make contact. Lee's, I don't know. I blanked out 20 minutes, and they had me on film. And actually, I saw the rough cut of it, and I'm watching it. I'm like, I don't remember this. I remember everything. I mean, I remembered everything once we got to the north side, but so it's like, why me? What happened to me? It was a fluke. I don't, and it's not like me. So it's pretty wild. But I want to see yours too, because you said you got
Mm-hmm.
you got chased off, right?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with our van. It's got, the solar panels on top. It has a backup battery. It has a backup battery. And all of that, like we parked in the middle of his field. So this van was sitting there for the whole day charging under the solar lights. I mean, you've been there, you know, and there's no reason why any of this should have drained. Our van has security cameras around it, and then it has 4 satellite cameras we can run and place wherever. We have a security camera that we aimed towards like his barn, that direction,
Right.
and then we had it was aimed up at the sky in that direction, and then we had the rest of them was like one was aimed out the back and one was aimed like up in the sky the other way, in case anything came in or whatever. And it got to a point we were using an Ovilus to talk to something out there, and it was communicating. And at one point, all the alarms started going off in the van because all the batteries were dead. And it's like, hey, everything's going to die. And we're like, okay, well, if all of our security cameras go out, all of our lighting in the van is also like we have big floodlights on the van, so all this is going to go out, and we're going to be out here, just sitting in the dark and stuff, which is fine because we have, night vision on us and everything like that. But what is strong enough? We were getting stuff on the Ovilus like triangle arrives and special hunting and stuff like this, and we're like, this is creepy. And at this point, I looked at my mom who had the Ovilus, and I said, are you doing this? Are you turning off all of our electronics and stuff? And it replied 2 words. It said, as aggression.
Wow.
And at that point, we're like, I got chills. We're like, okay, I don't know what this is, but it does not want us here right now. And I think if we stay here, it's probably not going to be good. We should probably pack it in for the night. And we have an invitation from him to come back and try something else. But I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to do that because Lee's a great guy, and I don't want to waste his time, So if we're going to go out there, we did a whole analysis of his field. We went there with methane detectors, radiation detector, EMF, the Ovilus, everything. And we walked up and down his entire field. You don't see it. It was like 2 hours of walking just back and forth across the entire field to see if we could get any kind of anomalies or anything. And we did. One of my GoPros clonked out halfway through. And it aired out, and it said it was corrupt and all this stuff, and we got that. We put out 3 trail cameras to take pictures every 3 minutes or every 5 minutes. I think it was going to take 3 pictures is what it was. Only one of the cameras took pictures.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're not motion. They were time lapse, so we'd get all this data and stuff.
Yeah.
The one at the back of the van aimed straight out at us. When the as aggression and stuff was happening, there's a series of I think 3 or 4 pictures. They're in the episode, and the van is parked like you're looking at the back of it, and behind the van is what looks like a UFO, kind of at an angle. In the trail camera picture.
Yeah.
And the security camera that was aimed that way no longer has night vision. It will not record at night. It'll record fine during the day, but the IR lens goes out and it won't record at night.
Yeah.
So that field messed up a lot of our stuff.
Yeah, well, it's weird because I almost think there's a dome. That's how I kind of figure it. And maybe not just over Lee's property per se, but I think it's part of it, to where there's just this, it's almost like there's a whole different dimension, and it just kind of filters in and out. It's hard to explain, but I don't think it's natural there. And it's exactly like you said, at least, you had that gut feeling for safety to say, if you stay here that long, nobody's really ever stayed there that long. If you think about it, what if you did, do you get possessed by some other dimensional, I don't know. And that, honestly, that's kind of the weird feeling I get when I'm there. You see these lights, Dogman's right there, Beast of Bray Road, which is not just confined to Bray Road, but Elkhorn itself. It's pretty creepy,
Do you know if anyone's ever actually stayed there overnight? Like the whole night?
I think Lee has locked in his barn and is locked in his door in that room. And, but no, I don't think so. I mean, the longest I was there, but here's the thing. Because, when they did the Travel Channel with Lee's farm, I was doing the investigating all night. But even though it was saying it was all night, it was probably till like 1:30 in the morning. But then the production crew's like, all right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll pick it up here tomorrow and then start filming there again. But yeah, that was probably the latest I stayed out there. But to just grab a sleeping bag and, rough it and just sleep there. No, I don't think anybody has. Lee says he won't.
I think that'll be our next project.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I got, as you know, I got the new thermal drone and stuff. And I'm really interested in shooting that thing up there and seeing what we can get and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
well, and the thing is, it's like, I was a walking surveillance camera when I go walk out into the woods. And that was about up until last October. And then I don't know what hit me, but when I was out with that production company from Colorado, I took them into the Kettle, one of my areas, and they didn't really have anything but audio recorders on them, and the guy filming and everything, but he was filming in infrared. And we all kind of broke apart. One was kind of trying to do a meditation with the woods. Another one was just being quiet. One guy was filming. And I walked about 20 yards from them, just staring off into the darkness. Now, don't repeat this. This is just between you and I. No, I'm just everyone's watching.
And the 5 people listening. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was watching it. I was kind of just watching the trail. I couldn't see anything. It was pretty black. No moon. But you still get that little bit of ambient light from the sky, but it was still dark in front of you. And I'm just looking down this trail. And all of a sudden, something in my head said, "Turn your camera off." And it was my voice, but it was like, "Turn your camera off." And I click it off. Okay, that's my safety net, right? That's my evidence. What I see, people won't believe me if I turn that off now and I don't have a body cam. It's just my word. But you know what? I was going to trust it. I turned it off. And I just sat there. And again, it sounds crazy, but I saw 2 black blurs that were blacker than the darkness that it already was shoot from one end of the trail to the other. And I mean, literally, maybe I'm just this speculation guesstimate, 15 yards, and it shot back almost as if they were playing, or that's what I was thinking. But then it was that form of being contacted. I think, I don't know. Like, I don't think I've ever heard any other voice in my head besides my own. But it was weird that I would do that. And the point I'm trying to get to at this is, ever since then, I kind of started stripping off all my technology because I felt like this technology was creating a barrier between me and what my goal was of contact. So I started pulling that, putting that there. I'll still walk out with my thermal and everything, but I don't wear it around my neck on and everything. The other thing I have going now is just an audio recorder off to the side. Nothing else on me. It's like going out naked, but not naked, but naked of technology. And that's kind of where I've kind of evolved into today. So, you see some pictures of me over the last summer. I'm like this walking surveillance camera, like, with a shotgun mic up here. And I'm just like, it'd be cool. But again, you have to be in the right place at the right time to be able to capture that. Kind of like you were saying about your van and the UFO being on its side. If you weren't there at that exact time, would it have been there? Or, did you get, I don't want to say lucky, but were you there right at that right spot when you were supposed to take it, which you were? So
or did we call it in?
Or did you call it in? Absolutely. I mean, I don't know, I guess as soon as we start talking and you spend the night there, if you want me to come up for a little bit, I can. But as soon as, I come up to you and say, "Barnaby, this is Zool. There is no Jay."
There is no Jay, only Zool.
But
that's when I just turn the camera on you and go on.
Yes. Gozer the Garzurian. But the thing is, because we really don't know what we're dealing with, and just like you being a truth seeker, you want to understand this, and that's kind of been my journey this far, as just to understand it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for part 1 of this 2-part episode with Jay Bachochin of Finding Jay. Stay tuned next week to hear part 2. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Whispers from the Dark. To find out more about cryptids, anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, visit us at our website at wisconsincaps.com. That's wisconsincaps.com. There you can find links to all of our social media: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and our Patreon. You will see links to our online store as well, where you can get t-shirts, DVDs, and more. If you click on the public events page, you can find out where you can meet us in person and all the public events we have coming up. If you enjoy our podcast or our YouTube shows, please consider becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/WisconsinCaps. There you can find behind-the-scenes pictures and videos from all of our media, as well as bonus footage and evidence that we have collected. If you have encountered something you can't explain, we want to hear from you. Visit our website and click on Submit a Report on our main screen. You can choose to leave your contact information or simply remain anonymous. You can also reach us via email at wisconsincaps@gmail.com. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please contact us on our Whispers from the Dark podcast page on Facebook, or send us an email at wisconsincaps.com. Remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch or find us.